Well, howdy, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lauren Musica Show, your favorite update in the battle for life, family, and freedom. Thanks again so much for joining me as we roll along in Season 2. Once again, I'm Lauren Musica, attorney and human rights advocate, and I serve as president and CEO of Sidewalk Advocates for Life, the nation's largest peaceful sidewalk outreach organization. Men and abortion. Let's have a discussion. The other side loves to say, you don't have a uterus, you don't get an opinion. Well, as a woman and an oldest sister of brothers, I take issue with that, to say the least. I am furious that women insist on saying such heartless things to good men. And I know that every child I've ever known has had both what? A mother and a father. And at least half the babies lost to abortion are little boys. Consider all that. I don't know that I've ever shared this before, but I have a male cousin somewhere in my family that actually tried to commit suicide on the due date of his baby months before his girlfriend aborted their child without his consent over his pleas. Yes, by the way, this is legal. Men actually have no legal standing in an abortion decision. In fact, some of my most poignant memories are being outside of abortion facilities, praying with crying fathers who feel helpless to stop their wife or their girlfriend from taking the life of their child. And I truly believe that if men would rise to their God-given calling to defend and protect the dignity of women and children and human life, abortion may not exist. Let's chew on that for a bit. So let's go ahead and have a conversation about it today. I've invited a man in our ministry, a friend and brother that I deeply admire, who has a wealth of knowledge on this topic, to say the least. So I can't wait for you to hear more from him. Nate Robertson serves as a board member for Sidewalk Advocates for Life, as well as an outreach specialist, committing to helping grow this life-saving program across the United States and beyond. Nate has ministered on dozens of sidewalks outside of abortion facilities throughout America, and he's dang good at it. I've seen it firsthand. His passion is seeing all abortion facilities be covered by peaceful, loving advocates so no one enters without knowing real hope and help, while seeing the body of Christ come together on this issue through awareness and accountability. Nate holds a Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies from Union University in Jackson, Tennessee, where he also served as student body vice president. He's built a strong reputation in his present life as a business leader in account management for over 10 years. Nate and his family live in Orlando, Florida. Let's welcome to the program, Nate Robertson. Howdy, Nate. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, Lauren. It is so great to be here. What an honor to be with you again. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, you were on this podcast before. If you all have not listened to the episode about bringing together people across denominational lines for this mission, you got to go check it out. That was also with Deaconess Tiffany Manor of the LCMS Church. So Nate was on with us prior to this show. But a lot of people may be getting to know you for the first time. So Nate, let me go ahead and have you jump in and share who is Nate Robertson and how did you eventually find yourself on the sidewalk in front of abortion facilities and ministering in the pro-life movement?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Lauren. It is such a great honor to be with you again. You know, I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and always was pro-life, grew up that way, very strong Christian upbringing. My dad's been a Baptist minister for well over longer than my lifetime. And growing up, there were different things that connected me to the issue of life in the Buffalo area. There were different pro-life protests that were being done at abortion facilities there in the 90s, as it was a little bit of a different style back then. And then you fast forward a bunch of years, and I was involved some in pro-life activity around college and post-college, even had prayed outside of the Supreme Court many years ago. But then you fast forward, life gets busy. I got married to my wife, Kristen. We moved to Kentucky, and then we found ourselves in Louisville, Kentucky. We'd moved there in 2011. And about 2 years later, in 2013, on a Sunday evening, we had gone downtown to eat at a spaghetti warehouse restaurant with our son Rylan, who was about 4 at the time. And we parked on the street because it was street parking on Sundays was free. And we came back out of the restaurant and walked to our car, and I can still see the moment, even all these years later. We got closer to the car, and I looked up, and as I looked up, I saw a sign that to me resembled that this must be an abortion facility, though it didn't say the word abortion on the sign. And I said, how can it be? How can there be an abortion facility right here in my community? And I didn't even know it was here. Now, that's ignorance on my part. It definitely was my fault. But also, could it be the fault of the collective Christian community that there's not more awareness? At least that's the way I was seeing it at that time. And so that was the moment, really, that began a journey for me of how do I become more active in being a part of the conversation and being there to support people as they're going in and out of a facility. Stumbled across a lot of different things on the way to finding Sidewalk Advocates for Life. Lauren, you started Sidewalk Advocates for Life, as you know, in 2014, and we started having Sidewalk Advocates for Life in the Louisville area there at that facility late in 2014. I got involved with that, and then a lot of different history items happened and led me to being much more involved with Sidewalk Advocates for Life, working full-time for a time, and now serving as a board member and outreach specialist. But that moment was really important to my life, and it changed the trajectory of the amount of activism I would have in being an advocate for life that is being lost across America, and also an advocate for life that is being saved all across America. So it's a really awesome way that I just got connected really into what we do today.
Yeah. I often think about your story and laugh, Nate, because I'm like, who leaves a spaghetti restaurant, finds themselves standing in front of an abortion facility and says, I need to do something. I need to be here, right? And that really was what it was.
Yeah.
You talk about, so kind of linking to all that, you talk about awareness and accountability. So take us back to that moment. Like, what hit your heart at that moment, and how is that instructive really for other men as well on this issue?
Yeah, I mean, so much for me, that moment was a moment of both awareness and accountability all in one, right? Like, I had this moment of maybe an epiphany type moment, some would say, of wow, this is here. And in that moment, I had to then decide what was I going to do with the new information I had. I had become aware, and awareness means that we then do have to become accountable. We are accountable for doing nothing, or we're accountable for doing something. And in that moment and the moments that came, I became accountable for doing something. You know, I've heard people say that it's so easy for us just to turn our face from evil and be like, oh, there's nothing going on. I don't see anything wrong, because we're turning our face from it. But when we become aware of what is happening, we then have to become accountable with what we're going to do next. And it sent me down this journey of how do I do what I need to do? What is my place? What is my part? What is my place? And it led me to that sidewalk just to stand and pray because I didn't know what to do. But it led me to continue to investigate. What can I do? Finding tips on the internet, beginning to listen to others who are on the sidewalk, and then being able to get connected with you and Sidewalk Advocates for Life and the incredible program that has been built here that leads people so easily to do the ministry that they are now accountable to do because they have the awareness that the greatest human rights battle of all times is happening right there in their local community, that they can go and be the hands and feet of Jesus at the darkest place in their community just by saying yes. No special training needed. And so all of that, I think, builds into that moment of awareness and the accountability that came and that continues today. And I'd encourage all of our listeners today to be considering the accountability that you need to have as a listener today of what are the actions you're going to take to be a part of solving the greatest human rights battle of all time.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize abortion is the greatest cause of death in the history of our world. This is a crisis of epic proportions, a modern day Holocaust, right? And so when you become aware of that, like you said, it should move our hearts to do something, at the very least, for those of us that are believers, that are called to be salt and light to a world in need. I actually don't have this question in front of me, but it just kind of hit my heart. When you started going to the abortion facility and you're watching women walk in, you saw that very first woman walk in, what was that like for you? And how did it move your heart to keep coming out?
Yeah. Standing there and watching, especially at that facility, because it's different, where everybody has to walk past you. There's not a big gate. There's not a big driveway. Everybody walks past you on the sidewalk and goes in the door that's literally 5 feet from you. Yeah. Watching men and women going in, you could see the brokenness, but you could also see the hardened hearts. You could see the despair. You could also see the glimmers of opportunities to bring them hope.
Yeah.
What I remember so vividly is it moving my heart in such a way of, we have to be here, we have to do more, and even brought me to this place and this moment where I began to think about the reality that while abortion was happening right there in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, 5 days a week, people were all around the city and the region going about their business without any awareness or without any care that it was happening. And I remember sitting at a breakfast place one Saturday after I left the sidewalk. I'd met my family for breakfast, and having that moment. If you've ever had a moment like this, sitting at a table in a restaurant and realizing that there's so much going on around you, but being taken to a place in your mind of people don't know what's really happening. And just realizing that people were not really aware of what was happening and that they needed to be. And what was my part, my very little part, what was my very little part to play in helping people to be aware and then helping them to be active? And so I started inviting people to go to the sidewalk with me very organically, just hey, I want you to come and just watch. Even if you just stand there and pray, just come and watch. You need to know what's happening here. And it did. It broke my heart for them as I saw men and women going in, but it also imprinted memories on my mind forever of the opportunity that we had. If we would reach out lovingly, peacefully, with compassion, that we had the opportunity to change hearts and minds and to truly save lives. So many people in our culture today talk about saving lives and, this is causing death and that is causing death. But what are we doing to truly save life? We can do it like we do through Sidewalk Advocates for Life in our communities, like I was learning to do in Louisville all those years ago.
So good. Yeah, so good. This is just such a natural bridge to what you were saying. Men on the sidewalk serving in front of abortion facilities. You've been part of so many victory stories. So I guess the question is, can men be just as effective as women? I have thoughts on that. What are your thoughts, Nate?
Yeah, I think that we have to continue to dispel the misnomer that men can't be as effective as women.
Yeah.
It's different, and it should be acknowledged that it's different. There are things that I, as a man, as a husband, as a father, can't always say to a young woman that I've never met before on the sidewalk. But on the flip, there's also things I can say to her that may really encourage her. One of the things that we should acknowledge and understand about men being on the sidewalk is there is this opportunity for a man to be seen as a fatherly figure or a brotherly figure to these young women who many times are coming alone, or ironically, many times are coming with a male friend who isn't the father. Sometimes he's the father, right? But many times they have a male friend that they ask to bring them to the facility.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity for a man on the sidewalk is, to me, in some ways, exponentially important. Women have to be there. Women 100% have to be there. There's a natural camaraderie with other women that women have. But the opportunity for a man to be seen as that brotherly figure or that father figure, that grandfatherly figure, and to provide support that maybe she's never had in her life or she feels is lacking, to show her that this doesn't have to be the trajectory of her life, and to give her that support. But also on the flip side, men need to be on the sidewalk because men need to be there to reach out to other men. Men need to be there to call men to be accountable for what's happening in that moment. Yeah. And men need to be there to remind other men that they have a role that God has given to them, no matter what their relationship with God is in that moment. Men on the sidewalk need to remind men who are coming to an abortion facility that they have a God-given role as protector, provider, and defender, and that they need to stand in that role And many times, men in our culture, as we see all the emasculation of men that's happened all across our culture, men need to be reminded that they have a voice, that they need to be strong, that they need to stand up, and that they can be a protector. I have said many times on the sidewalk to men as they've been coming to an abortion facility with a young woman, that that man with her, holds the highest place of influence in her life in that moment, because she asked him to come with her.
Yeah.
So the value of men being on the sidewalk to encourage other men, as well as to stand there in the gap for those women, could not be overstated. It is so important, so valuable. I don't want any man to ever again say, I don't have a role on the sidewalk. It's not my place. I'll let the women do that. Every man needs to go to the sidewalk.
So good. No, I could not have said it any better. We have seen so many babies saved through companions, right? Through the boyfriend,
So many,
the male
yeah.
friend, the father, the grandfather, right? We've empowered them to go back in because we can't go in there. We're in the disposition of a trespasser when we're on the sidewalk to the abortion facility, at least. Of course, we're so much more than a trespasser. But they have a line of communication in. They're with her. They're the companion. They can go in and give her all the information that we would normally give to her. And so we have seen that when we can empower a father to step up to that natural God-given role to be a defender and protector, right, that's really where miracles can happen. Because so many of us women are looking for support from our men. You know, even as strong women, we love to pretend, oh, we're independent. We can do this ourselves, right? And yes, we can do so much. Absolutely, right? But like you said, there's differences. We're co-equal. But that strength of a man coming in and saying, we've got this. Right? We've got this. We can do this. I believe in you. Here's what it's going to, maybe they don't even know what it's going to look like immediately going forward, but you know, here's generally what it's going to look like. I'm going to stand with you. We're going to walk this out. We're going to figure this out. We've seen so many women come out of the abortion facility with a message like that. You know,
That's right.
It's so powerful. So good.
Yeah.
Why is this, Nate, a moral issue, not just for women, but for men too, even in the greater culture, when we're having that big left brain debate, or you know, you're seeing it on Facebook or in politics or wherever it is, right? This is an issue that touches every sector of society, every part of our culture. It's life, our first gift. Why do men need to add their voice to the conversation?
Yeah, it's really interesting to me that so many people want to try and take men out of the conversation. Even as you mentioned in your opening, right? People saying things like, you don't have a uterus, you don't have an opinion. Well, you also mentioned that every single child that the world has ever known had a father.
Yes.
Whether the relationship with that father is good or not, whether that father was anything more than a sperm donor, there was always a father.
Amen.
And so the moral component of this could not be stronger.
Yeah.
It is easy to throw the guilt or the weight of a pregnancy or to throw the responsibility of a pregnancy onto the woman. That's easy, but it has never been moral. It has never been moral to throw the weight of deciding on what should happen about the pregnancy, or even just the way in which that pregnancy develops. The moral weight of that should never have been solely on women.
Yeah.
The man is just as responsible for that pregnancy as the woman is. And he has a moral obligation, again, to protect the life that he has been a part of creating. Where did we get off on this idea that men did not have moral responsibility in the children that they create? You know, I've heard it said, and I can't take credit for it because I have heard it from other places, but I've heard people say that abortion is the ultimate exploitation of women. And I think that is so well said.
Yeah.
That abortion is exploiting women to the furthest degree. Because think about this. It is much easier, or maybe not much easier, but it has been almost easier to hide the male component of being a part of an abortion than the female. I would contend that there's many men in this country, millions of men in this country, who have never ever shared about an abortion that they were a part of. I would say that, I don't know the research, but I would say that there's probably more men that have never shared about their role in an abortion than women. because we have tried to make it like it's the woman's responsibility, put all of it on her. But the moral responsibility of a man in the whole conversation of abortion could not be higher, and it cannot be overstated. Men need to take the responsibility that they created a child and be a part of the conversation. Men also need to take the responsibility to be a part of the solution. And being a part of the solution is obviously related to sexual health choices, but it is also related to supporting women when pregnancy is discovered. That men have a moral responsibility. I'm going to say it differently than maybe I've ever said it before. Men have a moral responsibility to support every woman that they ever hear who is unexpectedly pregnant. We as men have a moral responsibility to support her and to not say, oh no, you're pregnant, or did you want to be pregnant, or what are you going to do? Men have a moral responsibility to immediately support her and celebrate the life that is now growing inside of her. Yeah. So you're getting me off on a tangent, so I apologize there. But the moral component is so key for men.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and this goes just to our basic admonition in Scripture to be there for the orphan and the widow, right?
That's right.
And if men have been given that role of protector and defender of life and family, of everything that is good, right, and true, then what you're saying is it's like an exclamation point. Every time we encounter someone in our lives who's unexpectedly pregnant and is confused and is in a world of chaos and confusion, what an opportunity that men have to say, how can I stand with you in this, right? How can I serve you, right? Like you said, women are going to go to women and they're going to do the woman thing. They're that empathy and the caring and the compassion and the connection. Not to say men don't have that, right? But women will have that between them in a very special way. But a man entering the picture saying, hey, I'm here to support you, right? My wife and I are going to journey with you. What is it that you need, right? It's so powerful, so powerful. Nate, we've got just a minute here before we close out the show. What would you say to men who are listening right now, or maybe women who could pass this along, right? But men who feel sidelined on the issue, or maybe they want to serve on the sidewalk, they're worried that they won't be as effective, or maybe they're in a valley right now in their sidewalk outreach. Speak to them for a minute, encourage them. How can they continue to make a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lauren. You know, for those men who you are listening or watching today, I want to encourage you that God has put you in this moment in time. And what does that mean, that God has placed you in this moment in time? What that means is that God has chosen for you to be a part of the solution of the problems that are around you. I think many times men become solution-oriented and task-oriented, like, how can I do this? Let's do this and move on. Well, how are you to be a part of the solution of the great battle that's happening in your community? Truly a battle of life and death. You may feel, as we've talked about, that you don't have a place or that your voice doesn't matter. So this is what I would encourage you to do. I would encourage you to take a moment, a silent moment to go to the sidewalk and to stand there and to pray and ask God how He wants to use you to be a part of the solution in your community to end the greatest human rights violation of the world. And what does that mean? That means that you need to be open again, even if your heart has been broken or hardened or wounded by different things. Maybe your sidewalk ministry has been something in your past and you've just taken a break, or maybe you do have a connection to abortion that you've never felt comfortable sharing with others, or maybe you have shared and haven't felt like you got the healing you needed, or maybe you're still working on that healing journey. But take a moment and ask God, how am I to be a part of the story of ending the greatest human rights battle in my community with the women and the men surrounding me? You know, I want to encourage you today that you have a powerful voice as a man. You have a powerful voice as a man to show those around you that you can be one who protects and defends. And I want to remind you even of some of the grandfatherly men that we have had serve in Sidewalk Advocates for Life who have been able to be a safe place for women in need. Maybe that's the encouragement you need today, is to just be a safe place. Wherever you find women in need, allow them to know that they have safety with you. But where could you be more of a model of safety for women in need than on the sidewalk of your local abortion facility? So I encourage you to go, even if that's to silently pray or to get involved with your Sidewalk Advocate group in your community. You can do it. You're empowered to do it. And God has called you to be a part of the solution. So take your place and solve the problem. So, there you go.
So good. Thank you, Nate. I think of so many of our advocates. These are names that are just coming to me: Jerry, Chris, Pastor Bud, Mark.
Yeah, that's right.
So many that have, they have baby pictures. They go to baby showers. They are godfathers to some of the babies that they've helped to rescue. They're important to so many women, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you're no less than that. In fact, some of my favorite pictures of you, Nate, are you holding little girls that you helped to save, you know? It's so good. I think of Madison, that's been in your arms, Jasmine, who's been in your arms. We helped together save a little boy named Cameron, right?
Yeah.
God has
And
used
Braylon,
you.
too, here in
That's right,
Central Florida.
Braylon. Think of Braylon. That's right. Can think of so many names and faces. And if you hadn't been there, these children may not have lived. So I just want to personally thank you and thank you for
thanks.
your profound yes. And I know it's going to be such an encouragement to so many men in our ministry and in the movement and beyond. So many believers out there too, where it's time for you to throw your hat in the ring to get into all of this and see what God can do. So thank you, Nate. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Well, closing thought. Can we all be okay with the fact that men and women are different, yet co-equal, that we bring unique and irreplaceable things to society and family life, and that's okay? That these differences are God-given. They're not meant to put us at odds, but invite us out of ourselves to learn and grow, to work in tandem. These gifts were given to us to work in tandem for the good of spouses, children, family, and the world, right? Can we see it like that? There's so many women that seem uncomfortable with the idea that men have a special strength and paternity in their role in the family, the church, and society. And some feel like that somehow threatens our independence and identity as women. But I will tell you, as a pretty strong woman myself, I think my brother the other day called me an alpha female. I come from a traditional male industry, right? I'm an attorney. While I agree that we can do most things that men do, I also celebrate the things that are different. I believe that we are stronger together. I know that when I hear something weird in the middle of the night, I am totally fine that it's my husband who hops up and is ready to defend our household, right? He's built differently. He has a different calling in that regard, right? And on the flip side, it's my femininity that warms the home and brings a special spirituality and connection to all that we do. Men on the sidewalk are our caring, strong protectors and defenders. I'll tell you firsthand that us women feel more safe when men are with us. They can talk to the boyfriend and husband man to man. They can call them to something in a greater way that I never could. Many women as well have been left by a man in their lives, and a good man showing up to help them is often so welcome on the sidewalk. Again, I see it firsthand. And then on the flip side, men in our ministry recognize the natural camaraderie, as Nate talked about, that I have as a woman with other women. And having grown up with two brothers, I can also relate to men in a special way and encourage them as a sister. You know, the scriptures tell us that when you pray, believe that you have it already. So what if you, in all your uniqueness as man or woman, is exactly what someone needs that day? And just kind of a little bit more of a heart-to-heart here. As a woman, I'd like to apologize to the men who are listening to this. I want you guys to hear this. This is from the depths of my heart. I want to apologize to you for any woman who has told you that your voice does not matter. As the president and CEO of the nation's largest sidewalk outreach organization, and as a wife and a sister, I will tell you that that is a lie. You matter to me. You matter to our female sidewalk advocates and to countless women who have needed your strength and support. So I just want to encourage you to not be silent, to keep speaking, to keep standing up for what is good, right, and true. Stand in your God-given power. We need your gentle strength. We love you. We appreciate you. Keep going. All right, well, with that, we wrap up another show here. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Laura Musica Show. We'll be back here next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central on Facebook Live, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Thanks again for joining me, everyone. Have a great week.